Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, where we are still in Labyrinthos to prepare the Ark for the Flight of the Moon. And last time we helped counsel a few scientists with Loporits, and Urianger met Blovida and Wilson, the parents of Moonbreeder we lost way back then in the AR patches. And they had an emotional scene. Anyway. Liver and yams. Thou dost have my gratitude for lending courage to the Loporits. Not disposed to rest on their laurels, several of our guests have elected to accompany my countrymen to their stations. Some few may still come hither seeking counsel, and so I shall remain to aid them as need be. If thou art needed elsewhere, do not let me detain thee. As a matter of fact, I was hoping you might check on Alisaie. Last I saw, she was struggling to carry an enormous pile of boxes out the west gate. I could go myself, but we both know those help she's less like to scorn. Not to mention that, much to my misfortune, I can think of several other things I ought to be doing. Until later. Desiree, what are you doing here? Thankful said you could need some help. No, I don't mind if you help with the boxes, but it's far from the most exciting of tasks. Are you sure? Well, I appreciate the assistance. We need to get these to Aporia. Time is short, of course, but they're full of organic specimens and samples, so try not to be too rough with them. Alphinaud should be waiting for us when we arrive. I'll see you then. Carrying crates with a time limit. Hello, Alphinaud. Oh, you're helping with the crates. Wonderful. You can put that there with the others. You have my gratitude, but how did you come to be involved in this? Then I suppose I have Thancred to thank as well. If you're wondering why we are tasked with bringing these boxes to Aporia to begin with, so was I. Turns out that this is a base of operations of sorts. Those with final say as to what is included in the ship's manifest can be found here. Father included, I suspect. That should be everything. You carried all of it at once? Are you trying to enjoy yourself? Oh hush, but let's have a look, and not everyone has your delicate arms. I suppose we should let someone know that we're finished. Theopoldin is in the courtyard. We can report to him. Why don't we come along? You should get credit for your assistance at least. Considering where we are, we might even learn something interesting. keep thinking I've seen him elsewhere, but I cannot for the life of me remember when. This must be Theopoldin. Gods, it never ends, does it? What can I do for you? We've brought samples from Charlene Hamlet. Series 110? The crates are by the entrance. Ah, thank you. I'd expected one of my colleagues, but we are dreadfully short-handed. Just a moment. You are fortunate children, are you not? Alphino and Alisaie, at your service. You're well acquainted with father, I take it? Quite. I've been friends with your parents since our days at the studium. I remember when you were yea-high, waddling hither and thither. Clearly, it's been quite some time since we met. 'Tis good to see you again, wielding your father's new lives, no less. You knew our parents when they were young? What were they like? Pray, spare no detail. I should like nothing more than to regale you. Alas, I am meant to be in charge here, and reams of paperwork want for submission. We can help with that. In exchange for that sort of stories our parents would never willingly divulge, of course. Very well then. There happen to be 3 sets of documents in need of delivery, so how about you each take one? Wait, right here. You will find a foreign representative waiting to collect these near the southernmost structure. I hope I haven't kept her waiting too long. Never mind Alvin and Alisaie, I'm certain they will be back soon enough. Southernmost structure. Are you not one of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn? I thought we were meant to be working on the Aether Burner. We're waiting on parts. Theopoldin's paperwork was beginning to worry at misplaced as quill. I appreciate your help in seeing these documents to my hand at last. As for your other task, pray keep this between us, but I sincerely hope your science succeed. The Exodus is, without a doubt, the most monumental undertaking in the history of a forum, so we must be circumspect in all respects. Risk is a privilege we cannot afford ourselves. At its heart, however, Charlene has ever been a nation of the curious. It would be a tragedy indeed if we were the ones to stymie your pursuit of truth. Quick and efficient. I dare say you have a talent for this work. The twins' papers only need to be delivered to elsewhere in the facility, so they should be returning any moment. We return, with not a scrap of paper remaining on our persons, you will note. We both have my thanks, and my apologies for sending you on an errand far below your ambitions. Why, even as a babe, you struggled out of your swaddling clothes and... That is quite enough of that, thank you. It was compromising stories of our parents that we asked to reiterate. Of course. I've known your father for so long. I must have something, huh? Well, as you know, part of why the level your name garners much respect in Charlene is your family's storied history. You too can trace your ancestry directly to those who came aboard Neoncraft's Hope, a lineage few can claim. I've never thought much of it myself. It's not as though our forebears founded our nation. They were simply there when it happened. Nevertheless, it has traditionally been a point of pride. 'Tis why Neocraft's pronouncement, renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason, has ever been our family's creed. Until your grandfather's time, aye. Akan Louisoix looked not to Neocrip's words, but his deeds. He asserted, in defiance of his peers, that choosing to save a great and the small from the rising tides was a true mark of our founder's virtue. Perhaps it was his expertise, his knowledge of ancient prophecy and the fall of civilization, that led him to conclude that to eschew conflict at every turn was to consign mankind to his doom. There will ever be conflict, and calamity will follow. Thus, to ignore the plight of those one might conceivably save is not wisdom, it is indolence. You remember his words well. Indeed, Archon Louisoix lived by that personal creed, and used every means at his disposal to bring succor to those in need, Charlian or no. No one loved and admired your grandfather more than his son. Yet Fortuner could not reconcile Louisoix's deeds with the philosophy of their forebears and his peers, a philosophy in which he believed so fervently, yet made a pariah of his father. Fortuner agonized over this contradiction for much of his life. God's father? A son may carry his father's blood, but his choices are his own to bear. Is it not always thus? Gods know, Fortuner's a cranky old goat, so I'm sure you butt heads often enough. Yet even so, you must know that you are constantly on his thoughts, every moment of every day, and that's not an exaggeration in the slightest. You should have seen him when you were born. Barely recognizable he was, with a kind of dumbfounded grin I had not seen since he first took a fancy to your mother. He was practically skipping when he told me the news. Take my word for it, he loves you to an embarrassing degree. But he's also frustratingly simple-minded. Once he decided that a given action is for the best, he will stay the course no matter who or what opposes him. A profoundly annoying habit when you're on the other end of it, as I'm sure you will agree. I'll say thank you for your insight. When next we meet our parents, I shall mention that we spoke. Try not to get me in too much trouble now. I need a phone on my side. Speaking of which, I ought to be getting back to work. I have to make sure those specimens we brought make it to their proper places, or the cranky old gold will have my hide. We can speak again later. Hail, you three! Graha, surely Cockle hasn't driven you out of a forge already. For better or worse, no. However, he has set me to a task that requires more than my single pair of hands. And here you are. I could use at least one of you, but I won't object to more. Unfortunately, Alisaie and I have prior commitments, and we have delayed too long as it is. What about you, Desiree? Can you spare the time? Sure. Perfect. This shouldn't take long. Tis strange to hear father spoken of in such a way, but I suppose he would find your view of me no less odd. Much as I'd like to press Theopoldin for more revealing tidbits, we should be getting back to our tasks. Once forged. In the event that our, and I quote, promised heap of adamantite falls right out of a bloody sky and into my lap, Master Cockle wishes to be ready to put the proverbial hammer to anvil at a moment's notice. To fabricate these parts, however, he needs the flames in Cockle's forge to burn hotter. He sent me to increase the amount of aether being funneled to his furnace. The flow of fire aspect at aether and Labyrinthos is regulated by an elemental reactor south of here, to which I have brought a key. The adjustments will require 2 people to carry out safely, but I can explain the process when we arrive. This is where we part then. We'll see you in Charlie and Hamlet once the adamantite arrives, if not before. This way then. The reactor is housed within this facility. I'll be the one to go inside and adjust the fire aether output. When I do, a rather large amount of water-aspected aether will issue from the vent at the top. I expect this to attract at least a few elementals, which will both rather not be drawn into the reactor itself, trust me. Can I ask that you put down any that draw near? They'll pose you little trouble, I'm sure. Wait here. Wait here if you would. Okay. Did everything go smoothly out here? I thought as much. No major complications to speak of inside either. And the water aether appears to be venting properly. I expect Cocker will have seen a difference in his forged flames by the time I return. Since I have you, there was another matter I thought to discuss with you. Nothing terribly important, merely something I've been considering. Part of this I shared with everyone. Yet you and only you have been to Elpis. As we have established, refined adamantite is a product of Alak, of the Empire's twilight years in fact. It was a material which saw much use as part of Allagan efforts to extend beyond the bounds of this world. Nalamut of course being the most prominent. Of those who would push further, expand Alak's empire to encompass the heavens and the stars above, perhaps the greatest was its infamous technologist, Amon. Fandaniel. Amon wanted to travel the Sea of Stars? He did. He must have had his own reasons, however, for there is no evidence to suggest that he retained memories of his life as an ancient. He only joined the Ascians once the Empire was all but dust, as you know. If not his memory, though, what drove him to pursue the idea with such fervor? This may seem far-fetched, but what if souls, like minds, have a personality, so to speak, a natural disposition towards which they are inclined? We know with relative certainty that it was a gross decadence and inexorable decline of Alak that moved Amon to resurrect Emperor Zande. The Empire's people spoke lightly of death and destruction, experimenting on those they deemed beneath them to fill the emptiness in their hearts. In facilitating Zande's return, Amon provided these languid souls with a means to free themselves from the mire of their own indolence. Or would have, had not Zande been convinced by his own death that life itself was meaningless. Amon's desire for his countrymen to conquer the heavens would only be a means to the same end, to instill the people with a new purpose. Like Hermes before him, Amon was appalled by how those around him lived, but could never bring himself to believe that those lives were devoid of meaning. And both of them sought that meaning, that hope, in the distant stars. Such is my theory, anyway. Ultimately, it is the consequences of their actions which matter. Their motives are of no moment, and yet... To reach for stars on wings of adamantite, to travel to the ends of creation and beyond. The promise of hope everlasting. That much I do understand. But enough musing for now. Why don't we see how Coco is getting on? I did thoroughly brief Coco on refined adamantite's history. I only volunteered to go to the reactor because I was finished and there was little else to do. Hopefully that dispels any misapprehensions that I was kicked out for prattling on. Well, I can feel those flames ablazing from here. Glad you found someone capable, Gra, but there's not much left for you a lot to do. Unless you can conjure up that refined adamantite any faster. Bonds of adamantite. Cockle Dunkle is, as usual, worked up over the ether burner. I do trust you to deliver on your promise, I do, only... I hate waiting, I want that adamantite and I want it now! We share your impatience, I assure you. Is there truly nothing else we can assist with in the meantime? I wish. This sitting about's unbearable. Pity the form frowns on recreational explosions. Well, so long as they don't... Well, so long as they can't prove it was premeditated. Get you gone, I have mistakes to make. In that case, I suppose I should go and return the key to the reactor. I have one more look to make sure that nothing has gone wrong, unintentionally or otherwise. I'm certain there are better use of your time, however. I will join you in Charlie and Ham later on. If you wait here, your companions are bound to turn up sooner or later. Wait.
All set, I take it?
We finished what we could. Delivered supplies, tracked down escaped animals. Trivial tasks as they may be.
Honestly, I'm glad they have, if only for this cutscene, changed the background music. It's not a bad track that's playing, but it's way... It's not made for constantly being playing in the background of menial tasks, yeah. It's not a good background track. It's a, okay, we are about to face a boss. It's go time, people. And it's not.
That's enough, don't you think? If there was anything more important still undone, that would be a problem in itself.
The vessel is essentially ready for departure. All that remains is to load the final batch of supplies and see everyone on board. Once we've readied the ether burner, that is.
Ah, had a feeling we might find you all here.
Our consultations with the Loperates, too, have run their course. Pleased I am to say that our researchers' concerns have for the most part been allayed, though some insist on making adjustments to the very end. For their part, Livingway and her peers have graciously offered to stay and keep the people company, lest any lingering queries go unanswered.
All that remains is to wait for the refined adamantite.
Alphino, are you there? It's me, Kryl. Your special delivery has arrived. Round up everyone and come to the harbor at once.
Speak of the devil. Let us go at once.
Forgive the intrusion, Master Fortuner. I bring urgent news. A great commotion has broken out in Scholars Harbor. Your presence is requested, with all speed.